So for this first episode of the podcast, which is of course regarding sort of educational technology, unfortunately with the first recording that I did, there was an issue with the audio, so it wasn't actually picked up properly onto the recording. So what I'm going to have to do is just sort of briefly summarise the discussion that I had with the educational professional, and just sort of just generally summarise everything that we spoke about. So to start off this first episode, I'll just introduce myself. My name's Daniel. I'm the men's assistant soccer coach here at Union College. This is my second year here. I'm doing my master's in just master's in education. I got my undergrad from Upper Iowa University, where I studied exercise and sports studies. And from there, I'm sort of transitioning and focusing my master's on the teaching element of things. So for me, moving forward, after I finish my master's this year, I don't particularly see myself working in a sort of traditional classroom environment. Like a school, middle school, high school, whatever it may be. For me, I've always loved to play soccer. Soccer's been something I've done for my whole life. Came over to the United States originally to play soccer, and now I'm sort of transitioning into that coaching role. Um, so yeah, for me, I mean, I'm a little bit older than probably most of the students here on campus. So regarding educational technology, when I was first in school, I kind of didn't see a lot of it, and I completed my undergrad and my master's, where I'm seeing a lot of it being introduced. Um, so I mean, I'm originally from Scotland, so the school system that we have is a little bit different back home than it is here. For instance, we have what's called nursery, which is sort of the equivalent of kindergarten here in the States. And then from there, it goes to uh, primary school, which you're in for 7 years. And then from there, you go straight into high school for additional 6 years. So it's a little bit different, the structure of it. We kind of just seem to miss out the whole middle school aspect of things. It's about 16 years of education in total, 17 years, and before you're then sort of transitioning into higher education, which would be college level or um, sort of university. So it is similar in a lot of regards, but as an older student here, I'm approaching my 30s, so a bit older than probably most of the students on campus. For me, when I started out sort of in education here, back home, sorry, it would have been not a lot of technology was used. It was a very traditional classroom environment. It sort of consisted of a teacher would stand up in front of the class. She would have her chalk and her blackboard, and that's where the assignments were sort of written up. And then from there we had a notebook which we back home call a jotter. I'm not sure if that's something that you have here, and it's a little notebook that we have that we just used to write all of our assignments in. So yeah, not a lot of technology was used back then. It was all sort of very traditional. But one thing I found in particular since I sort of came over here to college, and there's a lot more sort of interaction with technology. It's something I experienced in high school as well, but even then, a lot of it was still very much sort of the English essays were all handwritten assignments. All my math was all handwritten assignments. I find a lot of things these days are sort of done online. Um, One thing that I noticed when I first came over here was the introduction to sort of portals. ULearn portal, for example, that's something that I hadn't seen before I came over here. I think that's a very good way to actually sort of just organize all your classwork and keep it all in one place. Because I know when I was younger, I would come home with all my numerous bits of paper, my assignments, and I would lose it all the time. I would lose everything. But having the portal and having sort of a laptop or a computer, it's a great way to keep everything organized. For example, when the likes of yourself, you put up all your assignments, everything's organized. There's a syllabus. It tells us when everything is due. It has all the sort of references that you need, the resources that you need to complete the assignments. And everything's kept in one place, which is nice and tidy. Um, I also find as well that when it comes to completing assignments, just doing it on the likes of a laptop is just so much easier. It's so much more efficient as well. Whether it be word processing and not having to handwrite things. Of course, with the introduction of the internet as well, it's very easy. Just anything that you need, it's just sort of at the click of your finger. Really, if you go into Google, any information you need, you'll probably find it there. So it's of course made referencing and things like that and gathering research much easier as well because you're not having to go to the library, you're not having to find textbooks, you're not having to purchase textbooks, and we all know how expensive those can get as well. So yeah, definitely with the transition of everything moving to online, I think it's a great resource, and it's very efficient for learning. Of course, some people may prefer to sort of be in the traditional environment where the teacher will write up things on the board, and you're sent away to just do your assignments on your notebook or whatever it is. That's all fine and well, that may suit some people, and some people will still have the option to do that. But one thing I noticed in particular, especially from my undergrad, is every class I ever went to, it was just everybody's always sitting with their laptop and everything's done, electronically, which I think just is more time efficient and it's just more efficient in general. Um, so one topic I want to touch on, and on episode 2, we will go into more detail about that. I actually have a student from back home who's actually my brother who I'd like to speak to. He sort of went to college or university during the whole COVID era, where everything was transitioning onto online and everything like that. So it'll be interesting to hear his points of view just on how the sort of online learning environment has, affected him. And of course, among other people as well. I'm sure he'll speak for a lot of people. Um, but yeah, one thing I noticed as well since I came to Union College is that a lot of classes are offered in person and a lot of classes are also offered online. And I think that's a good it's a good outlet because for some people they need that face to face interaction with a professor, with a teacher. If you're struggling on something, they can have someone actively there, actively showing them how to do something or teaching them. It just can help them better understand things with a face to face interaction. I know that I've always been one of those learners that just would rather be in a classroom, because if I get stuck with something or I'm unsure of something, it's like having the teachers, first hand help is always something that's just benefited me and suited me more. I'm a visual learner, so I like to see things in front of me. I like to see things drawn out, particularly if it's something to do with math. I took math three times in college. I took math before I actually ended up passing it. Um, the first time I did it, I took it online. Second time I did it, it was online again, which I just found difficult, and you can see work through examples and things like that online and the sort of math portals that they use. But for me, it was always just easier to have a professor in front of me who could answer my questions there and then. I'm not having to send emails or wait on responses or anything like that. It's just everything was just a bit easier for me to learn in that sort of physical classroom environment. Um, but of course, as well, since I've got a little bit older and I'm now sort of transitioning into doing my masters and whatnot, um, I've kind of found that with how busy I can be here as a graduate assistant, the soccer schedule is very very packed and very very full on during the fall. So I don't always have time to go to classes or just be many places because I find myself just having to be in multiple places at once all the time. Um, so having that online experience, is something that's definitely benefited me since I've transitioned into doing my masters. I like the fact that everything, like I said previously, that everything is just organised and it's in one place. The assignments are laid out, your due dates are laid out. There's still class interaction, with the likes of the discussion forums that we do, and they help the class interact, share different points of views on different subjects and things as well. So that's something that I definitely enjoy. But the big thing for me about just doing my masters entirely online is just the flexibility, whether the classes are synchronous, and follow a schedule, or whether they're asynchronous and you just do them at your own pace. I much prefer doing the classes at my own pace, because there's some weeks that I have that it's just crazy. I never get a moment to stop, and it's just whether it's, as part of my job and coaching or just personal life and things like that as well. I'm also expecting my first child in December as well, so things have been a bit hectic and a bit stressful, so it's hard to sort of get things done in a set schedule. That's why I much prefer just sort of having a class start date and a class end date, and I can just sort of work through things at my own pace. And I'm sure that's a big thing for a lot of adults, of course, just with how busy they are. A lot of people doing their masters still have full time jobs, they still have kids, families, things like that as well. So yeah, the online experience is definitely something that as I've gotten older, it's definitely been more of a benefit to me. But of course, I can see as well how, someone that's maybe in middle school or someone that's maybe in high school, especially during that COVID era, which of course we will touch more on in episode 2. But I can see that how just going straight from that um, sort of traditional classroom learning experience where you're there physically and just everything being online, I can understand how that can be stressful for some students because they're just used to that physical interaction, in a classroom environment. And then just having all your assignments put up online, I can understand how that could be difficult for some people because some people may not learn that way. Me in particular, I'm not someone that typically learns just from sort of looking at things online or through a computer. I kind of need that. I need that interaction with a professor to help me sort of better understand different concepts and different things. Depending on whatever subject it may be. Um, but yeah, and also as well, speaking on the side of things for educators, I think technology has made a lot of professors or teachers' lives much, much easier as well. Um, not all their assignments have to be sort of drawn out or handwritten or printed out now, and it's just a lot of sheets of paper and everything like that. So I think having everything just stored electronically and online, as I mentioned, it keeps everything in one place and keeps everything nice and organized. Um, of course, as well, with the likes of submitting things online, there's not just tons and tons of paper that you're taking home and having to grade, give back out. Sort of have everything in one place and on a laptop or a computer is definitely more efficient. Um, for both students and for educators. Um, but of course as well, there's a lot of teachers as well that you could say much prefer that classroom environment, that physical interaction, with students presently. A lot of teachers that's sort of the biggest reward for them, is that interaction with their students, seeing their students learn and develop, and improve and grow up and things like that. Whereas if everything's sort of just online, which it has been, of course, for a long time during the sort of COVID era. Of course, it's starting to calm down a little bit now, but um, yeah, I mean it's difficult because it takes away a lot of the teaching experience. I believe personally. Of course, with some professors they might prefer to have everything online. It's just easier for them just to be organised, or maybe they don't want to be in the classroom every single day if they don't have to. To each his their own. That's just personal preference, of course. But yeah, I mean, overall, just kind of talking about education and just technology, I think, overall, it's definitely something that has enhanced technology. It has enhanced the sort of teaching experience as well as the learning experience for students. I think it's something we'll continue to see, improving with the likes of these like ULearn portals and things that we have now. Just access to information online. I think over time things are sort of transitioning more to that online experience, or at least having a variety of both. Um, One thing that we touched on as well, of course, was just I think it was in one of the discussion boards, I believe it. I spoke about sort of just transitioning fully to online learning, um, which I don't think it would be cost effective or very efficient to sort of hire fully online professors. I can understand maybe at the master's level because a lot of sort of master degrees are done online these days, just with how busy sort of the students are and just family life and everything else and jobs. I think in terms of sort of maybe middle school level or high school level, I don't think it would be particularly beneficial to the majority of students to sort of just transition their learning to online. I think many of these students at those sort of younger ages would prefer the in-person class experience. I think it would greatly enhance their learning as opposed to just doing everything online. Um, but of course, as well, it's obviously good to have both options. And even now, if you're in classroom and you're in there physically in person, you get all your assignments. More or less, everything's going to be done online. Whether it's on a laptop or just word processing or anything like that. So I do think in terms of having to handwrite everything out, like I had to do when I was in primary school or high school, you're handwriting essays for hours and hours and hours. There's definitely with technology, it's made life a lot more easy and a lot more efficient for a lot of people. I think I've covered sort of most of what I wanted to speak about in this one, in this episode. Of course, it's a bit unfortunate that there was a mess up with the audio in my other one. That's something I could easily reschedule. If you would allow for it, that's no problem at all. But yeah, that's it for this one. We'll see you in episode 2, where I'll be meeting with a student who's basically just sort of went to college for the first time, and everything's just been online because it was right when COVID hit. So it'll be interesting to hear, sort of how technology and the learning environment shifted for him, from sort of in-person classes to sort of just everything strictly online. We can talk about how that affected how that affected his learning, or just even just his sort of college experience in general, because the college experience is more than just classes, of course. It's sort of living the lifestyle. It's growing up. It's finding yourself, and meeting new people and a lot of connections as well. So it'll be interesting to hear his points of view on how the COVID has sort of affected his college experience as well as his learning experience. Anyway, we'll see you in the next one. So for this first episode